Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai. Good afternoon and welcome to Spectacle, your socio-political and economic programs on Television Nigerian. I am your host, Daniel Atai, and today we'll be looking at what next after the Supreme Court verdicts that have, affirmed some governors and dethroned some, maybe one or two governors. And your take will be very necessary in the program today, as we'll be using just one number in case you want to reach us. The MTN line will be displayed on your screen to follow us from wherever you are calling from to contribute your input into the discussion. Stay tuned after this time out. I'll be with you.
The issue here we have to begin to look at is that at the time of independence, I don't know if there was a trajectory to where we are going to.
How could it be that credible, free and fair under manual conduct of election?
That is where our problem lies, and that is why people are now saying that, advising that we should move, that the world has gone into digital. We should move from the manual to the digital.
We cannot keep doing same thing and expecting a different result.
The only way you create jobs from your ministry is that you have to encourage local content.
If you look at the profile of Sally Mama,
there is a caveat in this leave given to him. He should seek medical help if he's fine.
Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. Welcome back. And with me in the studio to analyze this particular topic is Ina Okopi. Ina Okopi is a political activist, a social commentator, and a public affairs analyst as well. Welcome to the studio of Television Nigerian.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Now, we'll go straight to the topic on discussion. You have seen the trends within the week. The Supreme Court, the apex court in the land, in the country, they've given their verdict to all electoral issues, especially as regards the gubernatorial.
Correct.
The February and March gubernatorial elections. And they've affirmed governors like the governor of Fintri Umaru of Adamawa State.
Yeah.
They've affirmed the governor of Bauchi State. They've affirmed Kano State. They've affirmed Benue State, Sokoto State, and they dethroned that of
Imo State.
Imo State.
Yes.
So you have 4 affirmation from the Supreme Court,
yes.
And then you have 1 in dispute. But we are not going to look at what transpired. We're going to look at what next after the Supreme Court verdict. We believe that these governors, Governor Tom, Governor Fintri, Governor Bala, Governor Ganduje, Tambuwal, we expect them to hit the ground running. And what will be the agenda setting for this dispensation now after about 6 or 7 months?
Thank you very much, Dan.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
I'd like to, you began by talking about the Supreme Court judgment about the 5 governors, right?
Yeah.
We cannot begin to talk about way forward if we do not address what led us to this point in the first place.
Okay.
it is my belief that the Supreme Court, as constituted, exists for all Nigerians, not just politicians. But it is beginning to look like it is only political matters they're beginning to handle. And the pressure on these people are things that we must begin to cut down. It is my understanding that if governance arrangement within political parties are properly taken care of, and certain cases should not even come to the Supreme Court.
All right.
I would explain what I mean.
Okay.
Now, we've been clamoring for electoral reforms, governance within parties. Let us understand this. If the process that vote has counted, would there be a need for you to go to approach any court to seek redress?
Not at all.
There would not be. And so what we need to address at this stage is our electoral reforms. So we don't have this going forward. We are lagging behind. There's a lot of
Political prospects.
If we get the electoral reform in place, governance structures within political parties would be taken care of. And so candidates that are thrown up would reflect the wishes of the majority of the people in the party. And so when you come to an election and INEC is seen to have conducted an election where we begin to inculcate serious technology to curb malpractices.
Yeah.
When the results are finally announced, it will be stupid for anybody to decide to run to a court when you see that you didn't win and votes were actually casted and counted. Correct?
Yeah.
And I think that if you look at the election that took place in Kogi and Bayelsa recently, it should be a source of worry to us that as we approach 2023, our reforms should begin to be walked into place, so we don't have a repeat.
So one of the assignments now is electoral reform.
Fantastic. The governors who are in place now should also be seen to be pushing for the reform.
How do we push for this reform?
Fantastic.
Yes.
Okay, the agitation must continue. If you do not talk, people might misconstrue your quietness for acceptance of the status quo. So governors at their own local level must begin to push for the reforms. INEC must begin to transmit these things to the National Assembly for it to be properly implemented, so that by 2023 we have people in power who should be in power. Do you understand? And then you ask a very direct question. What next for the governors who were recently affirmed, even as recently as yesterday?
Yes.
We do not have time. The last swearing in took place like 7 months ago. That's enough time wasted.
Even 100 days, some governors have achieved a lot.
More than a lot. And we have governors, I will not mention names, but some of us have shown us. I look at one of them in the Southwest and I'm wondering, is he actually using his money to do this thing?
Or your state governor?
Yeah, he has
Precisely,
demystified governance.
Yeah.
He's made governance look cheap. And we see others walking in their footsteps. But some have not been very stellar. They've made governance look like a very difficult thing. But look at what that young man is doing in Oyo. I'm proud of him. Party notwithstanding.
Yeah, no,
and we see the guy in Borno.
After all, you are not in APC.
I am not an APC member. I'm not even PDP.
I think you belong to the AAC.
Yes, African Action Congress.
Okay.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Now, we've gotten the Supreme Court verdict.
Yes.
I don't want to go back to what triggered the Supreme Court verdict, especially the protests and so on, the mishaps. You've opined one of the way forwards. You said electoral reform.
Yes.
I have this question to ask.
Go ahead, please.
In the various states, they have state INEC electoral commissions.
Yes, sir.
That is SIEC.
Yes.
Most of the states are about to embark on local government elections now. What would you say about that? Should we begin from there?
Yes, let's start from there. This is a very interesting topic. Incidentally, I've been thinking deeply about this. I'll tell you this for free.
And sorry, please, the number to call if you want to contribute to your quota is use the MTN line at the +23481 37015949.
Okay, can I continue?
Yeah, you can continue.
You know,
So the state electoral,
first
state
of all,
INEC commission.
if you ask me,
Yes.
given the opportunity, if I had that kind of power to stop certain things, I would disband state
INEC
electoral commissions. Because it's a sham. If the governor in the center belongs to a certain party,
That party wins.
that party wins
completely.
completely
Without opposition.
without opposition. That's how it
And
works.
where there is no opposition in government,
That's not democracy.
that's not democracy.
Yes, that's a form of rule I want to call powertocracy.
Yeah, powertocracy. That's
Exactly.
the new name.
Yes.
So dictionary should listen.
So if you ask me, I would push for INEC at the center to conduct elections because the local government is not an appendage of the state government.
Good.
We must understand that.
Yeah. The local government is not an appendage of the state.
Yes.
It's an independent
Independent structure on its own.
Yeah, right.
If things were working correctly, they should get their funds directly from the federal government account. Right?
I thought the Muhammad Buhari's led administration have put that into.
Even up until yesterday, I heard them, they were still telling the governor in Oyo State to return.
To reinstate those
exactly.
sacked.
So, but it is going on. We know that these things didn't take, you know, the problem with Nigeria, enforcement.
Yeah.
They make pronouncements.
So we have laws.
Laws, but no people, not enough
No
willpower.
implementation or enforcement.
Enforcement to do it. And so the elections that are coming in these states you have mentioned, I know it's happening in Benue, correct?
Yes.
I don't want to sound like a Father Mbaka now.
Yeah.
You can just tell that everybody who is there will be of the party in the center. That is unfortunate. And you cannot say an election is free and fair when the opposition is gagged on one side.
So secondly, you are suggesting the annulment of SIEC.
Complete annulment, proscription
Of
of
SIEC.
SEC.
All right.
Let INEC run it even to the local government level.
But has INEC put their houses in order? For instance, judging from what you started with, the electoral reform, and most of these brouhahas came from INEC.
Yes.
INEC, let me say, should I say the complicity? It's like they are also a complex of what happens with the politicians.
You will not be far from the truth.
Okay.
I have a few persons who are my friends, especially at the recent Kogi election. And I know how certain candidates were treated who didn't belong to the ruling party. Very unfortunate. And this person threw out a lot of evidences in the public space to force INEC's hand to begin to act. But that's not what happened. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So even within INEC, we should begin to see serious reforms in INEC. The process by which the INEC chairman even comes up should be reviewed.
Okay.
So that you do not feel like you owe someone an obligation to do his bidding.
Especially
do you understand?
the executive order.
Exactly.
Okay, you will
So-
not be answerable to the
to an executive. So
you'll be completely independent.
It should be
So
independent in not just in the letters,
in
but
reality.
in reality.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Do you think that is actually possible in African continent? I'm not talking
See,
about Nigeria alone.
I think Africa has a lot of catching up to do. Yes. See Ghana, our brothers on the West Coast. They seem to be getting it.
That even just a state like Lagos is more than the whole population.
Population of Ghana. You see, Ghanaians are beginning to get it. There was a smooth transition from one opposition to the other. We didn't hear all this fighting going on, all this trouble, all
And
this
Kenya has
tension.
reformed their.
We need a lot of changes around INEC. We also need people to begin to face consequences for their action. I think the reason most things have gone unchecked is because people know, they already have settled it in their heart that I'll do anything and get away with it. But it shouldn't be so now.
Okay.
Our country is a country of laws. There has to be a reason for that. The reason the laws are in place is if you run foul of the law, you should be brought to book.
And who will bring you to book?
Of course, the judiciary should do their work, and they must be seen to be independent.
All right. We have come to a conclusion that governance is supposed to be obtainable in democracy,
Correct.
in forms of dividends of democracy.
Correct.
Now, there is nothing hindering this governance right now.
Yes.
What could you set as an agenda for them?
See, Dan, do you know why I like your person? Very pragmatic. You know what you want, you go for it.
Thank you.
All right? First of all, we should not allow people who do not know what they are going to do in office to ascend to that position.
As a visionless leader.
Visionless leaders. And we have most of them in positions of power. Do you understand? They got there because their cronies decided this one is his turn. So they push you there empty. Nothing to show.
Empty.
Your policies are crony focused because you're trying to take care of the people who brought you there in the first place.
I'm very nepotistic.
If you keep feeding the greedy, the needy will suffer. That is exactly what it is. And exactly what is happening in our country. These people will get together, they sit in one room somewhere in Lagos or anywhere and decide, okay, it is this guy's turn to be governor. You have not even asked if the guy is ready to be governor. And then he goes there and then he's empty, he doesn't even know how to talk of policy. And how do you expect dividend? But my point would be,
how do you expect dividends from such?
if your policies are people focused and you follow it with the panache required, you say, okay, you want healthcare for your people, and then you match word with action.
Good.
Make sure the funds are provided. Ensure that if you set a program to revamp the health sector around the rural areas, because what is governance?
The primary health.
Primary healthcare center.
The basic amenities.
I heard that the Nigerian thought that whole concept. Ransom Kuti or something, the professor.
Yes.
He was the one who thought it through and then brought it to pass. But it has failed in this country, but it is working in other places. If you go to the local government where I'm from, I do not know of the presence of any primary health care center in Benue. I don't even know where it is. If you have those structures in place to take care of minor sicknesses, women are able to go to that place, do their antenatal, and then they are able to even have children, and children are able to go to such hospitals without paying a dime. I think we're beginning to get it. But when your policy is focused, you create the impression that this policy you have drawn up is for the people, but your policies are targeted towards your cronies. How can you talk of dividend of democracy?
Impossible.
Impossible. So we should focus. If you're going to do human capital, let me just land on this human capital.
Okay.
At that local government level, Nigeria at best is a rural. If you go beyond the state capital, Nigeria is a rural state. I make bold to say that.
Rural state.
Rural state. Where do you see governance? The moment you leave a state capital, you go to the local government, everyone is practically on its own. So if our people, and the rural areas are predominantly farmers.
So agricultural policy.
Exactly. So your human capital development
After health.
should be geared into building their capacity to produce and creating market for what they produce. Why won't we have change in the rural areas?
And the federal government have incentives for all those things.
But let the state government key into this and see this development go straight to the grassroots. They don't see. If the people in our rural areas do not need much. Once you help them to build capacity by teaching them how to do it better, they are able to grow capacity, and you help them to get market. Tell me, what else do they need? You are able to do a hectare of maize, and at the end of it, you're able to harvest just you're able to harvest maybe 6 tons or 5 tons per hectare, and then you sell it. You're making like 10 times or 5 times or almost 7 times the amount you invested.
Or we have first level production. The machines should go down.
No. Let's look at that in the first place.
Okay.
The moment you can get up to 1,000 farmers, I heard there's a policy like that, within a rural setting, producing a certain value chain, say maize. Do you understand? Yeah. I heard that the back of it also has a policy where they can come and help set up. If you approach them, they set up a processing area for you to process. So you're not basically selling your maize now, you're processing your maize into another product. And then that adds value. It's more money for you.
Talking about that capacity building.
Yes, please.
You talk about servicing cronies.
Correct.
Or affiliated cronies.
Correct.
That is, people who are affiliated with probably the governors, the elected governors' parties. They want to service them.
Correct.
They become automatically their cronies.
Yes.
And you said we should do away with that.
Correct.
And then go into capacity building for the generality
of the people.
Yes. In that state.
Yes.
Even the federal government, don't you think they have failed in this oversight function? For instance, the NDE, the National Directorate of Employment.
Does this exist?
It exists. It's even disbursing some empowerment schemes now.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And but the names in the empowerment brochure seems to have changed to become party cronies. And if you have a people of a particular state,
correct,
enrolled for a particular benefit from the federal government,
yes,
it goes into the state.
That's right.
And then the state governors and their bureaucrats,
yes, are now saddled with the responsibility.
Yes, they will create this dichotomy and say, you don't belong to my party. I want you to throw more light on that.
We must understand. We see, you talk about the state. I think we have the same thing going on at the center.
At the central.
Correct. Once you are elected to a public office, you no longer should be seen to represent your party at the center.
Okay.
Because you have your party, you have other people who do not even belong to your party and may not even believe in what you do. But every fund you expend must be seen to take care of everybody's needs. And so if we bring in, I would push for
social structure.
Exactly. So that people who, if there's a certain incentive marked for a certain project, due diligence is followed to see that the people who actually are deserving of that stuff.
Yeah, like the
get
agricultural policy.
Good. You don't take fertilizer because you have cronies. You carry fertilizer and give to one political hustler.
And they're even selling them in the stores.
And then they go and begin to sell it. So, fertilizer that's supposed to go to farmers, you find them entering people's hands. That is unfortunate. I think that if we do a lot of due diligence in this sense, appoint good people. I use good very carefully.
Monitoring.
Yes, to monitor. Exactly. Too. If you give, it should not just end that I give you fertilizer, go and farm. No. You set up a monitoring and evaluation team to monitor it from where the fertilizer touched their hand to the finished product. The finished product has to reflect that you actually collected fertilizer.
And that will also create a chain of job
creation. This thing is not as
very difficult as they talk.
Yes. You know, they'll come on air and tell you how there's no money to, but billions are going.
Even in dollars now, not even in naira.
What is dollars? We're looking for another money to call it.
Pounds.
And very soon we'll begin to talk in terms of ECO. If we finally join ECO.
Nigeria is against ECO anyway.
Are they?
Yeah, Nigeria is one of the countries in the West African region that said they wouldn't join the ECO. I don't know why, but the economists, they know
the reason why.
Okay.
Now,
or away from that You've mentioned, I think we have about 10 minutes to go.
Okay.
You've mentioned electoral reform. You also, what is the second thing you mentioned? Because I'm not jotting down, but I know we're on record. You talked about structural dividends.
Yes, exactly.
Structural dividends that should be aside political affiliations and cronies.
Exactly, yes, sir.
And then now that this political party torsos, if you look at the initial judgment, when they dethroned Ihedioha of Imo State,
yes.
the PDP went, haywire, protesting, and could it be that as a result of their protest, they won the race?
No. I don't. Frankly.
But in a real sense of it, what could you deduce from that kind of behavior? Because it is one of the way forward. What we must stop. What we must learn to stop.
Exactly. Now, first of all, we must understand that the Supreme Court is the Supreme Court because it is the Supreme Court. I don't know how to explain that further.
All right.
If you go, I don't have anything against protest. I have participated in lots of protests in this my short life so far.
I know.
And
I
think that citizens should have the right to protest.
Okay.
Peaceful protest.
All right.
But if your protest is... Now, let me tell you something. The Supreme Court, I don't know the man there, but I think the person who gave that judgment on Ihedioha, I heard the former Attorney General of Oyo State on Channel TV. You need to hear what he said about that woman.
Okay.
I don't know the woman.
Okay.
But he said that he knows her well. And you need to be careful when you talk about human beings like that.
Exactly.
But he said that woman is close to being infallible. She has an independent mind.
No mistake.
Now, if
error.
you do the kind of protest you did, I will saw the fallout. There was a bit of troubles here and there.
Yeah.
If you go on that kind of protest, one thing you're basically doing is this. You're either trying to rubbish the image of our Supreme Court. That's why I said, let us get it right from the party governance arrangement.
Yes.
Get it from there, no need to go to the Supreme Court.
Okay.
The Supreme Court should be allowed to do cases for Nigerians.
Yeah. I remember.
Yes.
Like you are talking about getting it right from the party
From the
angle.
party angle. If the party gets it right, and all members in the party see that, look, we did this election, maybe by electronic voting, not in position.
Option A4.
Option A4. You know, hide. You come, you do it, you win, you know. If you didn't win, you will know that this person did not vote. This one voted for me. This is my number.
I recall in Rivers State,
Yes.
APC had no candidate,
Correct.
and the Supreme Court annulled them.
Correct.
So there was nothing like
APC
in Rivers State.
Exactly, and Zamfara State.
Zamfara State. And even Bauchi State that enthroned the man that was sick.
And those were decisions by the Supreme Court.
By the Supreme Court.
And we didn't see the APC people run to the street and shout.
No, APC went. So are we saying that we are expecting a better change if the PDP towed the same line?
The PDP.
Yes.
See, this table could still turn. If someone else takes over, another party takes over in the future, the same thing could still happen in APC if we do not get it right at the party level.
All right.
That is because if you look at the
party is the first nucleus.
Yes. Get that leadership, that governance thing there correct. Get when you push somebody forward to represent you. This is my definition for loyalty. You have your views as a party. I have my views as a member in the party. But once we finally come and agree on a certain course of action, I don't have to agree with it. Do you understand? Yeah. But because the majority of the party have said we like this, all of us must adopt it as our own, so that nobody goes to court. How you see how decisions were made at the court level, removing some candidates, throwing some candidates in because they didn't get it right. So PDP has done it. APC can still do it.
All right.
You must understand that.
So there's anyway, we won't go further more than this. I think our time has elapsed,
Okay.
and we would want to just conclude with this statement that after the verdict should be governance.
Yes, governance.
And governance should be all about the people, not about affiliations and cronies.
Yes.
I have been discussing with Comrade Ina Okopi as a political and civil activist. So thank you for coming, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome to
Thanks for
Spectacle.
having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
This is where Spectacle will stop, and you can still reach us through our online platforms and our social media handles, and drop your comments or wherever you want to contribute into this discussion. Like our pages on Twitter at TV Nigerian, Facebook just Television Nigerian, and so on. Instagram, we're there. So follow us in those platforms and give us the headway about how best we could serve you. I've been your host, Daniel Atai, and thanks for watching. Welcome to Spectacle on Television Nigeria. I am your host, Daniel Atai.